Morning, y'all. This is Labor Day, 9:30 in the morning, 2021, September the 6th. I'll tell y'all a story. It's probably going to take several parts to do this because I've got an end objective in mind, but in order for you to understand the end, you've got to hear the beginning. And YouTube kind of limits us, so it's going to take several parts to get this done. So the story is going to be the story of my life. And if you were to go to a Baptist church, especially an old school Baptist church, you might hear this called a testimony. And I suppose that's what it is. But it kind of got to lay the groundwork. So we'll just start with that. It may take several parts. You may get bored to tears. A lot of this is historical as far as my life goes. It really happened. Some of it you may know, some of it you may not know. I would say there's a fair amount that the grandkids don't know. There may even be a thing or two in here that there's probably not anything Mama don't know, but heck, I don't know, there might be something comes out that I hadn't thought of to tell her. So, long story short, no, short story long, let's do this the other way, because I just told you it's going to take several parts to do this. I was born in 1959 in Tyler. I moved to Dallas. Let's back up just a step. I got two siblings, Mom and a daddy. My daddy was a guitar player, played a lot, played with some people that later went on to become pretty famous in the country music world anyway. He was a better than average guitar player. That was never, every weekend deal was to go to a jam session or he was playing somewhere or something. So in 1965, we moved to Dallas from Tyler because of Daddy's job. And we continued to go back and forth to Tyler for jam sessions and whatnot. And somewhere along in there, Daddy got a job playing beer joints. Basically what he was doing. He was playing guitar in country music beer joints back in those days, in the Dallas and Mesquite area especially. Let's see, moved to Garland in 1967, I think. They were building the LBJ freeway at the time, 635, what y'all might call it, if you even know what I'm talking about. It wasn't built, but they were building it, and Karen, my older sister, and I, we made our spending money. Of course, we weren't, but I was about 7, and she was probably, I might have been 8, I guess. Karen was probably 11. And we'd make our spending money picking up empty Coke bottles and selling them at the store for 3 or 4 cents a bottle back in the days when they used to recycle Coke bottles. That's how we made our money. We lived there till 68. And like I say, Daddy was playing beer joints. He played every Saturday night, and as far as I can remember, even every Friday night. So he pretty much, he didn't roll back in the house 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning after the joints were shut down. And so on Sunday morning, it was always a question at our house, are we going to go to church today? Of course, Daddy'd been up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning playing. He wasn't a drinker. As far as I know, in those days, he was pretty much a teetotaler. He did not drink at all. Best I know. If he ever did, I sure didn't know about it. That didn't come along till a little later. So in 1968, we moved to Big Spring. And Big Spring was a little small town. At the time, it had an Air Force base where they trained fighter pilots for us, and we trained a lot of Iranian fighter pilots. Back in those days, the Shah was in power in Iran, so we had this deal worked out with them where we were training their fighter pilots. And we got started going to church. every Sunday. Never missed a day unless we happened to be in Tyler once a year, usually at Christmas. Then that would be the only time we'd miss. If the doors were open, we were there. Karen, older sister, she played piano for the church. Mama taught Sunday school. Daddy was a deacon. It was a Baptist church. He quit playing beer joints because he couldn't reconcile in his own mind being in a beer joint on Saturday night and being in a church on Sunday morning. That to him, that was hypocritical, even though he wasn't pursuing the lifestyle in the beer joints of chasing women and drinking booze. He just felt like that didn't work for him, and so he quit playing in the joints. He actually took up classical guitar at that time, and with aspirations of hopefully someday playing in restaurants or something like that, just as a creative outlet for his guitar playing. That, as far as I know, that never took place, but that was his end game anyway. So, like I say, we were in church all the time. I was heavily involved. Daddy played softball. I played softball with the men from the time I was probably, I don't know, 10 years old on. If nothing else, I'd warm up with them, shag fly balls, and that sort of thing with them. I got the term the Baptists use is saved. Got saved when I was 9 years old in 1969. And got baptized the following week. Got saved on a Wednesday night, got baptized the following Sunday night. We tried to live that life. Everything we did revolved around the church and the friendships and the relationships we had at the church. And of course, like I say, that was 1969. We roll along. I don't guess anything really big happened. I got into high school. That was in the early 70s. I think I started high school in 73 or 4. I don't even remember now. I graduated in 78. But like I said, the part I want you to hear about this is that the examples I had being set for me were heavily influenced by the whole Christian mindset. And I don't mean to minimize that. If anything, it needs to be stressed. As I mentioned, I grew up in town with Air Force Base. And when I was 16, I found out about girls. Actually, I found out about them before that, but didn't start dating until I was 16. And started dating this little girl. And Air Force Base shut down. And her parents were Air Force. They were civilian employees of the Air Force, but they were Air Force, civil servant type stuff. And they got transferred to Italy. I don't even remember if that was I think that was my sophomore year. Yeah, it had to have been my sophomore year, high school. So I think I'm in love with this girl. The ironic part of this is her name was Cindy. Cindy Wiley was her name. And I'm in love. I mean, I got it bad. So we decided, well, we ain't gonna let her move. We gonna get married. So I went and asked her daddy, because back in them days, you went and asked the daddy before you did anything else. You went and talked to daddy about it. So I went and talked to her daddy about it. He said, "Why, sure, y'all go ahead. We'll give you our blessing." So we left there. We went over and talked to my mom and daddy. My mom and daddy had married when they were 15 and 16, and they said not only no, but hell no. Marriage is a sacred covenant. It is not something to be taken lightly. This is the speech that they were giving me. And they were deacons and Sunday school teachers, and they were talking about this holy matrimony and the fact what that really truly does mean, that it is a unity made by God to serve God. This is in 1975. Well, we didn't get married because we couldn't get married without parental consent at that age in Texas. I'm sure you probably still can't. Her parents went ahead and transferred out. She went to Italy, and within just a few months they forgot all about me, which was probably what my parents had expected, and looking back, they were right. What you need to hear about this is all the reasons that they were giving me not to get married and their positions within the church. Like I said, Mama's leading Sunday school, Karen's playing piano at the church, Daddy's a deacon. They're saying all the right things for all the right reasons. Like I said, that was 1975. Well, 1976 rolls along. Might have even been later in 1975, but 1976 rolls along, and Daddy loses his job. He worked for the richest people in town. He was a CPA, and he worked for the richest people in town. And they got crossways, and so she fired him, and he went to work for her daughter. But in the process, it created a serious meltdown for him, like people do when they have a serious crisis in their life. Things can melt down and go to heck pretty quick. And they did. And then when those things happen, people tend to do stupid things. They turn to other things. Some people will turn to God, which is the avenue we should take. And some people just kind of crater and go completely off the rails, which is what my daddy did. And so he takes up with a woman. Just so happened to be my mother's best friend. He started having an affair. Now, it hadn't been a year since he had sat right there in the living room and told me, and I can sit here right now, and we're talking almost 50 years later, I can sit here right now and see him sitting in that chair telling me how sacred that unity is, and now I'm seeing what he's doing. And that threw me for a pretty big loop. It really derailed me. Up until then, I hadn't really derailed. I was a teenager, but I wasn't into anything. Back in those days, nobody thought anything about dipping snuff, and that was about the worst thing I did was dip snuff. I like Copenhagen. I dabbled with smoking a little bit, but I wasn't really a smoker. So I hadn't really gone off the rails yet. Y'all stay tuned, and we'll try another one. Come back for part 2.